Yeah, we're back. Episode something or other.
416, I think. What does it say? I got to read the bottom of the page.
416, yeah.
416. I'm still
Keeps
mind-boggled that we have 416 episodes.
It and just still keeps going.
I mean, literally tens of thousands of downloads. So we're talking about incapacitating agents. But before we dive back into what this Joint Terrorism Task Force has put out in the world that is happening today, Bobby, where can they find us?
Oh, my goodness. You threw me under the bus again. God
I did.
All right. I'm looking at it right now. Here we go. Conference board. We have in order, we have Indiana. That is coming up really soon. That's like in 2 weeks. We have Oklahoma State. We have Connecticut instructors. We have Florida. That's the next like 5. I have probably about 16 here. That's coming up before Baltimore.
And I'm going to brag a little for you.
Yes.
Somebody that I know has got training with NASA. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think that's pretty effing cool.
Yeah, I gotta go spit some fire at NASA Jet Propulsion Lab for a little while.
Technically, you're listening to people who are part of the space program. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Maybe.
But still, I think it's a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So cool. In our previous episode, we were talking about incapacitating agents. We were talking about stuff that was put out by Joint Terrorism Task Force, by the Intelligence Department here in the United States, if you are listening elsewhere in the world. And we had talked about hydrogen sulfide, and now we want to talk a little bit about hydrogen cyanide, because hydrogen cyanide is one of those ones that lands within the category of these incapacitating agents and what the Joint Terrorism Task Force put out.
Yeah, I would say that the cyanide side of the house is a little more regulated and watched by the letter agencies and the people that are in governmental areas. But hydrogen cyanide is pretty badass. What was it back in the early part of 1900s and stuff like that? That was like a favorite way to poison people. Get a little cyanide right in their cereal. Yeah. So like it's a little bit harder to hide nowadays. But if you're pulling out your freak flag and you are going to be killing people, I think the least of your worries is people figure out that it was you. You're doing this. So one of the things that the hydrogen cyanide is, surprisingly enough, it's flammable. It's flammable in the air with a specific concentration of 4.7 to 40.7. And just to refresh you guys, I like narrow.
Yeah, this
is relatively wide. Yeah, so this means there's a lot of opportunity for it to go. If it can ignite and burn when exposed to an open flame with other sources, any source of ignition. So the flammable nature of hydrogen cyanide can increase the risks associated with the use and handling.
Yeah, so as far as reactivity goes, hydrogen cyanide can react with a whole bunch of other chemicals. And in this reaction, it could lead to the formation of other hazardous compounds, which means not only are you going to be dealing with the hydrogen cyanide, but you're going to be dealing with other toxic crap that goes with it. This can be super dangerous. So whenever you're dealing with the hydrogen cyanide, whether you're responding to it, whether you're trying to neutralize it, whether you're dealing with the precursor, just remember that the potential exists for very much unexpected reactions to take place.
Right. And going with what you said, incompatibilities. It is incompatible to a wide range of substances, including strong acids. Now, I will say that typically when we neutralize, we use weaker acids. We use a less. How am I saying this? Less strong.
Less strong. So a weak acid that disassociates.
Yeah, that's a better word. Weak.
Okay.
Weak's a better word. That's a much better word. That's more gooder.
Much more gooder. SMRT.
So, but when we go and we have hydrogen cyanide mixture or a salt in liquid, and you introduce some type of contaminant, whether intentional or not, it can release a toxic gas or even a potential for explosions.
Yeah, and it has such a low IDLH to it, and it is so volatile and such a highly mobile gas. It can disperse in the air and create a super toxic environment over a really, really wide area. This type of release would be extraordinarily difficult to control. You can't contain it in any way, shape, or form. Your best bet in this case would be literally to make sure you monitor and either shelter in place or evacuate properly.
Right. So let's talk about detection and indicators. So one of the things that we like to do, again, we're not promoting the nose, but the nose knows. And so when you have hydrogen cyanide, it does have a very distinct odor, often described as bitter almonds. The odor threshold for hydrogen cyanide is the lowest concentration at which it can be detected by most people, not everybody, is generally between the 2 and 5 parts per million. However, once again, it is not detectable by everybody, as a significant proportion of the population lacks the ability to perceive it due to a generic variation in their mutant receptors. Typically, those people can fly.
Yeah, I was going to say that is an awful Darwin mutant thing. Yeah. What's your mutant superpower? I can smell poison.
I can smell bitter almonds. Oh, that's great.
Wow. That's
really impressive.
So if you are part of that population that can't smell it, how would you detect it? That's a joke, because even if you do smell it, don't use your nose to detect it. It has an IP between 10.2 and 12.6, depending on, what reference you're looking at. So you may or may not pick it up on your PID. A really good chance it's going to be a cross sensitivity on your CO. Electrochemical sensors are going to pick it up. Your AP4C is going to be able to pick it up. Many of your like your sound acoustic wave or surface acoustic wave will be able to pick it up. Your ChemPro with its fuzzy technology will be able to pick it up. So luckily, hydrogen cyanide is able to be picked up in a variety of circumstances. And that is, of course, if you have not identified the fact that there are precursors floating all over the place. Because if you get on scene and you actually can recognize some of the precursors that are floating around, you might be able to deter an event from happening or know to throw in your mask because something is coming down the pipe. So what are some of these things that I would see floating around? Well, one of the actually easiest to get is sodium cyanide. And it is one of the most common precursors for HCN, because all I have to do is let it react with an acid where it will hydrolyze and release the HCN gas.
And right below that guy is the old potassium. So you can get potassium cyanide. It's very similar to the sodium cyanide. And when you react with a acid or even moisture in some cases, it will again release hydrogen cyanide.
Yeah, cryogenic cyanide is going to be another precursor that HCN can easily form with the reaction of something just like not hydrochloric gas, but chlorine gas with hydrogen cyanide.
Yeah. You can even have hydrogen chloride. I'm sorry. Bromide. Thinking it wrong. Cyanogen bromide is used in chemical process and can release hydrogen cyanide upon decomposition or reaction with water.
Yeah, something like formonitrate, nitrile. That is a hydrocyanatic acid. I didn't think I was going to be able to pronounce that properly. Which is a really simple precursor for hydrogen cyanide, and it readily is going to evolve HCN gas upon just heating or just exposure to moisture. Right.
Now, peach pits.
Peach pits.
Do you remember? I don't know why this just popped in my head. It's the remember 90210, the Beverly Hills, the TV show when we were growing up. That was the diner they used to have. It was the peach pit. I always thought about cyanides. Anyway, peach pits, cherry pits, they're very similar to the bitter almonds, and the pits of certain stone fruits contain amylidin, which can release cyanide when ingested. However, the cyanide levels in these pits are typically low and not significant consumed if they are in moderations.
Yeah, bitter almonds, almond extracts would kind of fit into this as well, right? As long as we're talking about food. Now, this kind of lands within the realm of when we talk about explosive labs and somebody storing urine. Like, you're not going to get a ton of hydrogen cyanide precursors from peach pits or bitter almonds. You would need huge quantities, but If I walked into somebody's house and they've got buckets and buckets of peach pits or almond extract, that may, kind of throw up a sign that, hey, something is going on. And while I'm in there going, holy crap, look at all of those peach pits, I'm going to be like, does this guy have any equipment that can be used for generating or pulling out what they need for the hydrogen cyanide? It is a controlled reaction, so we can control it with certain equipment. Chemical reactors and vessels can be used to facilitate these reactions. Generally, if you're going to see equipment floating around like that, it's going to be with precursors of sodium cyanide or potassium cyanide, as well as acid.
Right. And you can even have gas scrubbers, which I don't think a lot of people are going to know what those are, but in industrial settings, gas scrubbers may be used to capture and contain any hydrogen cyanide gas that's generated. And so they use these scrubbers as a chemical solution to neutralize or capture that gas.
Right, which you may be like, okay, well, what do I care? But what if you're a police department and some industry down the road just got their gas scrubber stolen? That might be a red flag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hello. Fume hoods. Fume hoods are used in laboratories. They basically allow you to safely produce this stuff without killing yourself. So if you walk into an area, not only the generalized lab equipment, but also a fume hood, that should give you an indication right away that something really nasty is being made.
Remember that these areas are going to have continuous detectors and monitoring, designed for this environment. So these devices are hopefully going to give you some early warning of leaks or releases.
Yeah. If you see personal protective equipment in an area that generally wouldn't have it, because if you're going to try to produce HCN between the gases, the poisonous gases and the acids that are being used, you're probably going to see some PPE floating around, right? So chemical resistant gloves, face shields, respiratory protection, all those things in a location where they shouldn't be is generally going to start to indicate that there's something going on. Now, if you're arriving on scene and you need to initiate some isolation and control, well, there's really very little that you can do for containment measures, right? We've already talked about gases as being almost impossible to contain. You may be able to turn around and lower concentrations in a certain area if people have to work. But for the most part, we're going to be going through your normal SOP evacuation procedure. Speaking of lighting the world on fire.
Let's get into the signs and symptoms of exposure, like acute exposure to hydrogen cyanide. You're going to get your respiratory distress, like hydrogen cyanide interferes with the body's ability to use oxygen, leading to rapid breathing, shortness of breath, and chest pain.
Yep. Headaches, right? You're going to start to mess up, the brain. So you're going to experience severe headaches, dizziness, confusion are all part of a hydrogen cyanide exposure.
Count on the nausea and vomiting.
Altered mental status, right? People are going to be walking through not having a freaking clue what's going on.
And you can feel weak, fatigued, and lethargic.
Cherry lips and skins are clear signs, right? You have all these other symptoms, and then you have those red cherry lips. You're like, right then and there, you could be like, I need to be careful of hydrogen cyanide poisoning.
Right. Now, in severe cases, you could have some seizure activity.
And obviously, the heart stops and, you die.
Now, we will say in extreme cases as well, respiratory arrest, because the inability to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide effectively. So that's not a good thing. No.
And so we're talking acute high doses. What about chronic over a long period of time? Even just little bits over a long period of time can have neurological effects, right? Chronic exposures can have the same effects on the nervous system, leading to the headaches, the dizziness, the memory problems, and the difficulties concentrating, all things that I take methylphenidate for on a regular basis.
Very nice. And with prolonged contact with it, such as industrial processes or whatever, you can get skin irritation, rashes, or dermatitis.
Low levels over a long period of time, they can affect your breathing, resulting in chronic respiratory systems, persistent cough, shortness of breath, and an irritation of the airway.
Of course, you have your nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and lower digestive disturbances over time.
Changes in your blood pressure, heart rate bad heartbeat.
Yes, bad. You know what this sounds like? Any medicine commercial that you're like, what is this thing for? It's just constant.
There was a commercial back in like the 90s for a stock trading where it was
yes.
Do you remember that? And the guy was watching TV and the medicine is like a condition known as hot dog figures. Seeing the dead, your children being born with the head of a golden retriever. And he starts dumping the stock. Very funny commercial. But yeah.
Again, long-term weight loss. Okay, and don't do this as this is not Wegovy or anything like that. Extended exposure to this can unintended weight loss due to gastrointestinal issues and metabolic changes.
Yeah, psychological symptoms, right? So maybe all those crazy people you come in contact with, maybe they're not crazy. Maybe they've just been exposed to hydrogen cyanide.
And vision. You got to have the vision problems, visual disturbances, eye irritation. You're not tripping, you're on hydrogen cyanide.
All right. So what is happening when people are trying to generate the hydrogen cyanide? Because understanding how it's being generated, if it's not like a cylinder release, that could help us try to mitigate or stop some kind of a system that's producing it and getting people sick, right? The reactions to these precursors, like we said, they often involve cyanide salts and other organic materials that are going to release it in quantities. And these reactions can be driven by temperature, by pH, and by concentration. So by changing any one of those things, we may be able to slow down the release or stop it altogether.
Or make it worse.
Oh yeah, or make it worse. That's a good point too. Always remember that you have the potential to really fuck the situation up.
Yeah, you're like, what wire do I cut? And then that wire could blow you up.
Right.
It's maybe not the movies, So safe handling and disposal, neutralization. Unlike hydrogen sulfide, the reaction doesn't necessarily require an acid to liberate the compounds required to come together to create hydrogen cyanide. The general recommendation in neutralizing or rendering it safe is to allow it to go to completion. That is contra what a lot of people say is, I throw my pH in there and this stuff typically will be in a basic solution. Let me put my acid on. And by throwing your weak acid on, you are liberating hydrogen cyanide gas. So this is one of those ones, like, how do I know it's that one? You don't.
You don't. Just be happy it's not producing it anymore, or even dilution, right? We could turn around and dilute a lot of these chemical reactions and at the very least slow down that reaction. But for the most part, we're going to have to understand that in situations like this, evacuation is going to be needed. There's a couple of industrial situations in which they're able to neutralize the formation of hydrogen cyanide with a solution like bleach, right? Hypochlorites. So the addition of the hypochlorite basically renders the hydrogen cyanide, it turns it into a non-toxic compound and hydrochloric acid in aqueous solution. But that would only be able to stop gas that has already been generated. You're not going to be able to actually stop the production inside the reactant vessel.
Right. So, like with that, sometimes, I don't know. I don't know if I would even take a step to do it because there is the potential of making it worse.
Absolutely.
I would say probably just try to contain it by tarping it, or capping it, or maybe pushing it. I don't know. But your two things that you got to think about is your respiratory protection, your chemical resistance suits. Your respiratory, I don't really see it being a big deal. Of course, you got cartridges, but why put on a cartridge when you could put on your SCBA or not be there?
Right.
Just let it go, let it do its thing. As far as your CPC, again, if you're not interacting or have any potential for a splash, then just stand back and let it do its thing. But if you must go up there to put a tarp on it or whatever it is, I would definitely think about upgrading to, some type of splash suit, whatever, is compatible with it. But what was the one that Mubakars? Was that the one? Was that this?
Mubakars. What's Mubakars? Remind me. It's not ringing a bell.
It was a device that could generate, I want to say hydrogen cyanide. It was like a drum. It was a very popular thing maybe 10, 15 years ago about a terrorism thing. It was a generator. I can't remember if it was for hydrogen sulfide or if it was hydrogen cyanide, but we'll look that up. I don't remember.